you are special, you are important. Alam niyo po sa kultura ng mga Hudyo, in the Jewish tradition, they recognize the meal as a time for intimacy, to develop fellowship and friendship, and significant conversations are done at table. Kindness is the basic mood of the Jewish meal. People are fed and nourished, and in this intimate setting, people talk with each other about what matters. Kaya, paano kayo mag-usap ng masinsinan? Paano pag-usapan ng mga importanteng bagay kung ang lakas ng TV, lagi kang nakatingin sa iyong cellphone, unmindful of people around you. So, in this context, Jesus used the context of a meal, food, in order to impart an important lesson. Yung mga Hudyo, they were telling Jesus, you can become king. You have multiplied the bread. You have fed the 5,000. Sabi nila, if we make him king, we will never work so hard again to earn our daily bread, because he will provide us bread. And in fact, sinasabi ng mga Hudyo, if you are really the Messiah, why don't you provide us manna, like God provided manna in the desert when they were traveling from Egypt to the Promised Land? Ano ang tugon ng Panginoon Kristo? I'm not going to give you material bread. I'm not going to multiply the bread again. Sabi niya, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. And so Jesus was not only talking about the material bread, but he used the symbol of bread, eating, food, to drive home a deeper message. Sapagkat sabi niya, this is the will of my Father, that anyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have eternal life, and I shall raise him on the last day. Siya po ang pagkaing nagmula sa langit. Is the bread that came down from heaven. He who feeds on this bread and drinks on his blood will have life eternal. Bakit kaya nung nabuhay na maguli ang ating Panginoon Kristo, ay lagi niyang pinapakita ang kanyang mga sugat, ang kanyang peklat sa kamay, ang kanyang sugat sa tagiliran, at ang kanyang sugat sa mga paa. At sinasabi nila, why did he not choose to have a perfect, flawless body after the resurrection? The resurrection should have conferred on him the glorified body, flawless, perfect. Because Jesus is telling us that he is the bread. Whenever we celebrate the Holy Eucharist, Jesus says in that first institution of the Holy Eucharist, he took the bread, blessed the bread, broke the bread, and gave it to his disciples. Pinaghati-hati niya iyon at ipinagkaloob sa kanyang mga disipulo. At yun ay ginawa niya sa cross, parang sinakripisyo niya ang kanyang buhay. As if he was the bread that is broken and shared. That's why he said, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a single wheat. But if it falls to the ground and dies, it produces much fruit. Yan po ang ibig sabihin ng Panginoon Kristo, na kapag tinatanggap natin siya na tinapay bilang tinapay na nagbibigay sa atin ng nourishment not only physical hunger, but hunger for things that will last forever. Kaya nga sinasabi ni San Pablo, focus not on things that are below, but focus on things that are above, because what is below is considered as rubbish in comparison to the next life. Jesus is the bread that gives us eternal life. And how can we have that eternal life? How can we be saved? Jesus is telling us that death is not our final destiny. Death is a sign of separation. And if there is anyone who cannot endure separation, disharmony, it should be God. Because in Jeremiah, God says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. In Isaiah 49, it says, even if a mother shall forget the baby in her womb, I will never forget you because you are mine. I have carved your name on the palm of my hands. In Psalm 139, it says there, Lord, where can I run away from you, love? If I go down to the netherworld, you are there. If I go up to the heavens, you are there. Even when I was being formed in secret in my mother's womb, you knew me. You counted all my bones. It is God who cannot endure separation. Kaya nga po natatakot tayo sa COVID-19, sapagkat tayo mamamatay. We are separated from the ones we love. Napakalungkot ang kanilang pagkamatay because they die alone. But Jesus is telling us, death should not have the last word. COVID-19 should not have the final word. But Jesus will have the final word when He says, anyone who sees the Son and believes in Him may have eternal life, and I shall raise him on the last day. Paano po natin may mapakita ang ating pagtitiwala, pananampalataya sa Diyos? Sabi ni San Pablo, the best way to show our faith in God, our belief in God, is to follow His commandments. And what is His most important commandment? Loving one another, taking care of one another, forgiving one another, because that's the life of Jesus. That's why Saint Paul said, put on the mind of Christ, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And so, when Jesus tells us in the first institution of the Holy Eucharist, do this in remembrance of me, He's telling us not only to celebrate the Holy Eucharist here, but we become ourselves the Eucharistic bread. We become the bread that is broken and shared. Kaya napakaganda po ang ginagawa ng ilang mga kababayan natin na nag-uumpisa ng tinatawag na food pantries. At meron silang slogan, magbigay ayon sa kakayahan, kumuha batay sa kailangan. So marami pong mga people of goodwill, merong magandang kalooban. They donate food because food is a sign of concern, a sign of love. Sa kasalukuyang panahon, napakaraming walang trabaho. Kung wala kang trabaho, wala kang sahod. Kung wala kang sahod, hindi ka makabili ng pagkain. So we need people who are generous, who in their own goodwill donate food in order to support one another, in order that we may live. Yan po ang konkretong pamamaraan upang may pakita natin na tayo'y parang mga tinapay na kagaya ni Kristo, di bayanihan, spirit, sapagkat yung pagkain is life-giving. Kahit yung lugaw, importante. Sapagkat kung ikaw ay may sakit, meron kang diarrhea o trangkaso, ang binibigay sa iyo ay lugaw, sapagkat lugaw is rich in water. Hindi ka ma-dehydrate. At also rich in carbohydrates. Yung mga may problema sa digestion, madaling ma-digest ang lugaw. And so, food is a sign of life. When you give food, you're in fact saying, I want you to live. Here is the food that is extended to you. And so Jesus today is telling us, I am the bread that came down from heaven. I am ready and willing to lay down my life for you, so that you may have life, not only life in this world, but life eternal. And so whenever we celebrate the Holy Eucharist, we are reminded of God's presence in forms of bread and wine, transformed into His body and blood. Pope Francis said, God is at our side in every affliction, in every fear. No evil, no sin will ever have the final word. God triumphs, but the palm of victory passes to the wood of the cross, and the palm and the cross are inseparable. That's why Jesus would always show His wounds, ang kanyang peklat, ang kanyang sugat, sapagkat ito ang mga patunay na siya'y nagpakasakit, namatay sa cross dahil handa siyang magbigay ng buhay na walang hanggan, so that we will not be separated from God, because sin is symbolized by death, separation. But with Christ's sacrifice on the cross, with His rising from the dead, He has given us eternal life. And whenever we celebrate the Holy Eucharist, we are reminded of His eternal presence. God did not promise days without pain, laughter without sorrow, nor sun without rain, but He promises strength for the day, comfort for the fears, and tears and light for the way, because He is Jesus, the bread of life, ever present to give us not only life in this world, but life eternal.